Welcome to your Canadiens Connection on Rocket Sports Radio. We are proud to be the trusted source for all things Habs for more than a decade. This is the Canadiens Connection Podcast. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Canadiens Connection podcast right here on Rocket Sports Radio, where we keep you informed, engaged, and entertained, and up to date on everything related to the Montreal Canadiens organization. My name is Amy Johnson. I will be your host for today's show, and that would be episode 329 of the Canadiens Connection podcast, titled Habs 2025. 10 reasons for Canadiens fans to get excited this year. Because, new year, new you, and we hope it's going to be a new outlook for the Habs this season. We're going to get into it in just a moment. And when I say we, that would be myself and my co-host who is here in the studio with me. That is our founder and president here at Rocket Sports. His name is Mr. Rick Stevens. Happy New Year to you. How are you doing today?
Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to our listeners and our first show of 2025.
Yeah.
And we're excited.
Yeah.
Canadians seem pretty excited after their a little hiccup in Chicago, but a fabulous road trip that continues. We were recording on Saturday, continues tonight in Colorado. But Canadians pretty excited about the way the year ended, and boy, all kinds of things that are on the slate for 2025, and we're going to talk about some of those today.
Absolutely, we definitely are. Don't forget, this is an interactive podcast. We're going to want to hear from you, feedback, comments, questions related to the show. Most importantly, of course, our Canadiens Connection question of the week, which we're going to get to in the second segment. You send us your answers to that question, and there's a possibility that we could read your answer next week on the next show. The best way to reach out to us is to text us anytime on the Rocket Sports text line. That's 585-3-ROCKET. One more time, that's 585-3-ROCKET. Also, you can follow our social media accounts at Habs Connection on X, Facebook, and Instagram. Head over to our YouTube channel, subscribe there as well, InsideTheCanadiens.com. We've got a lot to cover today. We're going to take you through the 4 Montreal Canadiens games that have taken place in the last week, get you caught up on the Canadiens roster news, injury reports. We've got kind of an intense prospects report and update from the World Juniors for you this week. Can't have a prospect report without talking about Ivan Demidov. We're going to talk about him a little bit, the Laval Rocket. Then we're going to get into our quotes of the week. This week are from one of the current members of the Montreal Canadiens roster. And we will also be bringing you some general notes from around the NHL. All of that happens in segment 1, leading us up to our big topic, which is segment 2. And that big topic is going to be looking at the 10 things that Canadiens fans can get excited for and look forward to for the Montreal Canadiens organization in the calendar year of 2025. Looking forward to getting into that. And of course, in our third segment, then, we are going to look back at last week's Canadiens Connection question of the week. We're going to hear, we had responses. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
It was almost like some of you were on Christmas vacation or something. And had more time than usual to write in because we
had lots to say.
That's right. We heard from lots of you. So yours, if you send us an answer, we might be reading it today. Let's start with what has happened since we last met back on December 28th. It sounds like it was so long ago. Mm-hmm. Montreal versus Florida. In fact, on last week's show, because that was an early afternoon matinee playing the Panthers, they had already played the first period of that game when we were wrapping up last week's episode. We talked about it a little bit. All eyes on Jakub Dobes because it was his NHL debut going up against the Stanley Cup defending Florida Panthers. And not only did he win his first NHL start, he knocked it out of the park with a shutout.
Yeah, that was
incredible.
Incredible. I believe the first Montreal Canadiens goaltender to make his debut with a shutout against the defending Stanley Cup champs. He looked calm, cool, and collected as he always does. And really impressed with, his teammates around him deserve a lot of credit for the way they played, but he really controlled the tempo of the game. He swallowed pucks and slowed it down, held on. He didn't look like a rookie at all, and what an amazing debut for him. Kirby Dach, 2 goals, doubled his goal total. Jake Evans just keeps scoring shorthanded goals.
Yeah,
and Caulfield with a goal in the third period. So tremendous game for the Canadiens and for Jakub Dobes.
And they kind of rode that wave up through Florida the next day with a 5:00 start on Sunday. Montreal taking on the Tampa Bay Lightning. This time Sam Montembeault was in net. And they came out with another big win. Just swept Florida, the state of Florida, over the weekend, 5-2 over Tampa Bay.
Was it Nick Suzuki? Was it Juraj Slafkovsky? No. Alex Newhook opening the scoring. Christian Dvorak with the second Canadiens goal.
Who are these people? I've never heard of them.
Jake Evans, his 10th goal of the season. Yoel Armia. That line is amazing. And then Brendan Gallagher with an empty netter for his 10th of the season. Again, just a great effort. And it's been a long time since the Canadiens can head into Florida and get, especially on a back-to-back, get both halves of games against the Panthers and the Lightning.
That took them and their road trip to New Year's Eve. And that was a New Year's Eve game in Las Vegas against the Vegas Golden Knights. Vegas was on a pretty hot run, and they looked very strong to start this game. But Montreal stuck with them, and they were able to eke out a win, just edging Vegas with a 1-goal win, winning it 3-2, coming from behind. Made it quite the run up to New Year's Day for the Canadiens.
Yeah, they came into coming into this game and getting down in the first period, getting down early, down 2-0, and then coming back and scoring 3 unanswered goals. Cole Caulfield with his 19th. Emil Heineman, unbelievable season, his 9th, and then Kirby Dach to finish things up. Who Doc really came alive. And what was impressive in this one was the Canadiens really limiting Vegas's high danger opportunities. Sam Montembeault, it was not necessarily an easy game, but the 5 out in front of him did a lot of the work and limited his high danger scoring chances that he had to deal with. So another 3-game win streak for the Canadiens, but this one, the most impressive this season against Florida, Tampa Bay, and Vegas.
Then that finally brings us to Friday night, heading into Chicago against a struggling Blackhawks team. I find it interesting that they chose to start Sam Montembeault in this game instead of Jakub Dobes. I would have kind of expected Dobes, but it was Montembeault in net for this one. And there was a lot of notable things about this game, probably the least of which was the final score, because the Canadiens did not get their first 4-game win streak of the season. They dropped this one 4-2 against Chicago.
Yeah, Chicago was reeling. And if you listen to or follow any of the Chicago writers, they were very worried about the club and how the team was They had lost 5 in a row. The mood was pretty poor. They're the worst team in the NHL, and I agree with you. I would have expected that you'd see Jakub Dobes. You play your backup goaltender, you give him some confidence. I don't know, try and pad some stats for Montembeault or what, but he entered this one, and sometimes the scripts don't play out as they should. And Montembeault was out goaltended by a wide margin by Arvid Soderblom, who the Canadiens, it was a season high 40 shots on goal. But Soderblom was much better than Montembeault was, and the Canadiens dropped this one. Pezzetta, he was back
Finally
in the
got to
lineup,
play.
and Struble was back in as well. This one started badly. 2 minutes in, the Canadiens have to, the penalty killers have to put up with a Chicago 5-on-3 as both Struble and Jacky went to the box. Well deserved, and unfortunately, as you say, didn't get to the 4-game winning streak, dropping this one to Chicago.
The one highlight for this game, however, had to be Colton Dach, younger brother of Kirby Dach, made his NHL debut in this game, playing against his brother. We always like to see pretty special family moments like that, and I think that was a pretty big deal for the Dach family, for the brothers to play against each other in Colton's debut, and Colton's got the bragging rights with the win.
Mm-hmm. And looked pretty good in his debut. He was physical. He had showed his good hands. Montembeault made a good save, but in tight, Colton Dach looked pretty good. Apparently, Colton Dach also drew a penalty. And it was Kirby chirping from the bench. How about staying on your skates? Yeah. So.
I've seen you do that too many times in the driveway at home, kid.
Yeah.
So the Canadiens now with a 17-18-3 record. They are sitting in 6th place in the Atlantic Division, 23rd in the NHL with their 37 points. So they've not had a terrible December. I will give them that. I think December, the way things were going in October and November, I think December was probably the best they could have hoped for.
Very good December, and they're getting back to, we did our preseason predictions, and certainly many of the fans, the majority of the fans, I think, thought this was going to be a playoff-bound team. We were a little bit more modest with our predictions, but sitting where they are is more where people expected them to be at the beginning of the season. Although, everybody's pointing the number of points they'd have to make up to be in the wild card spot, and it's a little tougher than it looks because of the teams you got to get by. They'd have to have another month like they did in December, and the Habs sitting presently with a 9.4% chance of making the playoffs are on pace for an 81-point season. All
right. Well, we'll see how January goes for them. Patrick Laine actually did not play in Friday night's game in Chicago, experiencing flu symptoms, so he sat out. And David Savard actually left practice early on Thursday. He was a game-time decision for Friday night. He did not play either. That was why Jayden Struble did draw into the lineup.
And he's listed with an upper body injury, maybe something that is nagging or pre-existing. Didn't look like anything happened in practice, but missed the game in Chicago, and we'll see what happens in Colorado.
We're going to talk about this in greater detail later, but last week when we met, Cayden Primeau was getting set to be placed on waivers. That did happen last Saturday. He was placed on waivers with the intent to loan him to the Laval Rocket. He then subsequently cleared waivers. He was not claimed and was sent down to the AHL in Laval. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that coming up in just a few minutes in this segment. Some good news for Lane Hutson is that he's been named the NHL's Rookie of the Month for December. And I think that's, I mean, the numbers don't lie, but it's a really big achievement when you look at some of the guys who are in his rookie class with him for a defenseman to come out as the Rookie of the Month. Just part and parcel with how comfortable he's getting playing in the NHL.
Yeah, getting very comfortable, and I think he's proving that he can play. The question mark was not on the offensive side; it was always on the defensive side. I think he's, he gets beat. Yeah, he makes some mistakes. He struggles against much bigger forwards, but he is holding his own for the most part. He seems to be a good fit with Mike Matheson, and his work offensively and on the power play has been exceptional. So, what a great honor for him to be named the NHL's Rookie of the Month for December.
Definitely. Speaking of rookies or prospects, why don't we take a look at the Canadiens prospect report?
It's time for the Rocket Report. The Rocket Sports Media Team is your premier source for information about the Laval Rocket, the AHL affiliate of the Montreal Canadiens, as well as Habs prospects playing in the CHL, NCAA, and leagues around the world.
I really like our first news item under this this section this week. This is a really fun story. The Wayne Gretzky International Tournament just took place, and Tappara, Finland's U15 AAA team, came out on top. They were the winners of the Wayne Gretzky International, and they got to attend Tuesday night's Islanders-Leafs game after winning the tournament, which is a pretty fun way to celebrate for a bunch of under 15 kids from Finland. But what's even more fun is how they got to be there.
Yeah, they beat that team from Finland, beat the Brantford 99ers, which I like the name, 5-1 to win the title. Got to go to their first NHL game courtesy of Patrick Laine. He paid for their tickets. These were kids from his hometown in Finland. And he, they knew that it would be difficult for them to be able to attend an NHL game. So he covered the cost and sent the entire team to the game, which is a wonderful story, wonderful gesture by Patrick Laine, and thought it was, these guys are, a little ways off before we're talking about them as prospects, but what a real nice story.
Absolutely. Speaking of prospects, the World Juniors is still continuing. Semifinals taking place on Saturday, with the medal games taking place on Sunday this week. The Canadiens have, as we reported last week, the Canadiens have just one prospect playing in the tournament. That's Rasmus Bergqvist, playing for Sweden. And so he will be playing in the semifinal against Finland, which
always a rivalry.
Always, that's always a must-watch game anytime Sweden and Finland are playing each other in the World Juniors. But he's had a decent tournament.
He has a goal and an assist. A goal in the very first goal that Sweden scored. We talked about it last week. But most importantly, at +5, he's been solid on the defensive side, and I think has had a good showing at the tournament.
The other semifinal will be Team USA versus Czechia. Canada finishing in 5th place again this year, eliminated by the Czechs in the quarterfinal once again, but this time it took place on home turf in Canada, in Ottawa. The whole tournament for Team Canada, I think it's going to take a long time for experts, analysts, pundits, coaches, players, execs to unpack not just that loss against the Czechs in the quarters, but the tournament up and down.
This fans are are beside themselves. They are irate at the performance, at the decisions, at a lot of things, and you know, none more than the historic loss to Latvia. Should never have happened. There's all kinds of fingers being pointed at the selection process, the players who were selected. You know, their stated goal was that they were going to focus on compete less and brought less skill to the tournament with them. Team Canada had trouble scoring. They were undisciplined, and the most penalized team in the tournament by far, 113 minutes in penalties. That's more than double the U.S. People blame the officials, but you know, all teams operating under, and you're gonna get officiating, inconsistent officiating at this level, but you can't let that. I mean, look at the officiating in 1972, and Team Canada came away with. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. The Canadiens scored 10 goals total in 4 games in the round robin. Plenty of chances, couldn't finish. There was no player in the top 30 in scoring. That just shouldn't happen. Yes, people will blame the injury to top defenseman Matthew Schaefer, but one player shouldn't make that big a difference. Lots of people laying the blame at the feet of Coach Dave Cameron. I'm not going to defend him at all. The way he put lines together, the lack of chemistry, team that was very undisciplined, as we mentioned, him canceling practices and said, his quote was awful, because we were exhausted. There's no system for tired hockey players, was his quote. I mean, these are young players in peak condition. All the teams were, you know, in the same.
They didn't have the jet lag than the
they're at home,
did.
And I mean, and Cameron's saying he had no regrets in the decisions that he made. Anyway, it was. There's lots of finger pointing to go on here, and it's going to happen. Al Murray is the head scout. Al Murray is a guy I have a lot of respect for. I spent many a night sitting next to Al Murray when he was head scout of the Tampa Bay Lightning, talking hockey. He's a very knowledgeable hockey guy. I don't know who was the final person to decide who they brought along, but and then as far as the coaching, but this was really tough for Canada. And there's got to be changes for next year. It was,
I mean, obviously I'm rooting for Team USA. I'm American, but even at that, it was hard to watch just the complete implosion of Team Canada throughout this tournament, and it was just, you just cringed and grimaced and just, oh gosh, you just feel for Canadian fans and just hockey fans in general. You feel for the kids that were playing on Team Canada, and having to go through that. Really hope they can figure out what's ailing that organization in terms of their performances at these tournaments, and hopefully we see something much different on the ice next year.
If you're looking to pluck some positives out of this, Team Canada didn't give up a 5-on-5 goal in the round robin, and for my money, Carter George, and not just because he's from Thunder Bay, Ontario, Carter George from Owen Sound was the best player, goaltender for Canada.
Absolutely. Other Canadiens prospects were also playing on the big stage this week. After the NHL Winter Classic was held on the ice rink built on Wrigley Field in Chicago, the Big Ten, NCAA Big Ten Conference held the Frozen Combines, a 2-day, 2 doubleheader series of top Division I college hockey games and teams playing against each other on that same rink at Wrigley. One of those games featured the University of Michigan Wolverines versus the Ohio State Buckeyes. And so you know what that means. You know who plays for Michigan, the one and only Michael Hage. And he's just had an outstanding season. And you could see even goal celebrations and whatnot on the ice, despite the fact that they just came up short against Ohio State. Michael Hage just looked like he was having a great time.
11 goals, 9 assists, 20 points in just 16 games. He's having a tremendous freshman season.
He is. This is starting to sound like a broken record, but hey, Ivan Demidov, KHL Rookie of the Month for December. Again. This kid just keeps scoring. 39 games, 29 points.
Yeah, and he's on a 5-game point streak. He has 7 points in his last 3 games, 4 goals and 3 assists. After the visit by the Canadiens hockey ops staff, he got promoted to the top line. The last 2 games, he's had in each game over 18 minutes of ice time. So maybe the little friendly chat with the coach Rotenberg has paid off.
Hopefully. Laval has had its struggles, whereas the Canadiens had a pretty positive December. Laval had some worrisome moments in December and really struggled at times. That continued. They played the Syracuse Crunch a few days before New Year's and lost that one 5-2. It was not a good weekend for them last weekend. However, they had a whole week off. They had some practices and whatnot. And Friday night was their first game back from their New Year's break, playing the Abbotsford Canucks for the first time this season. That's the AHL affiliate of the Vancouver Canucks. Abbotsford in Laval for the weekend for a back-to-back Friday and Saturday night series. This game did go to overtime, so this wasn't one that Laval ran away with. They had to work for it. It was 1-1 after 60 minutes of play. Laval finally eking it out with a 2-1 victory. The big notable about this game was that it was Cayden Primeau backstopping the Laval Rocket in his first game back with Laval after clearing waivers last weekend. So a big deal for young Mr. Primeau. And our Chris G was there, of course, this weekend and spoke to Primeau both before the game on Friday and after the game. Before the game, Primeau was kind of, all business and looking forward to getting back into game action because it had been so long since he had a start.
Nothing replicates a game. You can practice as much as you can, but the timing of a game is different. But no, I don't think I ever lost my confidence. I was afraid to make mistakes, and it's a fine line, but they're different. So I'm just excited, like I said, to be here.
Well, afraid to make mistakes. He mentioned that purposely or not. It's difficult when your starts are, so rare that you feel that you can't make a mistake, that you have to show everything, and it's difficult to, even though you're there every day with the team and you're practicing. You can't replicate that, as he said, that game action to keep yourself sharp.
And really, for him, he talked about confidence an awful lot. Very much looking forward to just getting back to some wins, getting some confidence under his belt, and seeing some success.
Yeah, I mean, you can still be confident and not want to make mistakes. Afraid is probably a bad word, but not wanting to make mistakes. So yeah, just getting back here and playing and getting back to the things that made me successful.
So maybe he realized what he had said in the previous quote and walked that back a little bit, not wanting them to stick on the word afraid. But the important part there is he said he wanted to get back to doing the kinds of things that made him successful in the first place.
Definitely. Of course, after the game, Primeau, although he's a pretty He's a pretty one-level kind of guy in his interviews, win, lose, or draw, but definitely a bit more energetic and probably a big weight off of his shoulders to come out with a victory in overtime. And he did say to Chris G and the other reporters there that the win felt good.
Yeah, I feel really good. Obviously, getting back in there, getting into game action feels good. And anytime you can play here and get a win, it's even better. So, yeah, it's been good. Just trying to build off of it.
Yeah, so man of few words, but was excited to get the win. It felt good to be in the net and felt good to get the win.
I think for him as well, it felt good for him to be back in Place Belle. He is a fan favorite for the Laval Rocket fans. The atmosphere there, particularly when they get a win, is pretty explosive. And he spoke about the fans and playing back in Laval again after the game.
Definitely. There's not many times where, you play here and don't have fun. But, yeah, just tried to smile a lot and, feed off the energy from the guys and the crowd.
Yeah, just getting that support from the fans. He also went on to give some credit to goalie coach Marco Marciano. He said he credited Marco and said that they have a great relationship, and said Marco insists that you bring positive energy every day when you come to work, and he was reminded of that, and he said, the Habs teammates have been great to him, but getting back to Laval and the familiarity of that was good. Just one note with respect to the waivers. He said that he received the call from Kent Hughes prior to Christmas, so he knew that after Christmas, once the trade deadline. Once the trade, the roster freeze was over, that he would be placed on waivers.
Merry Christmas from Ken. Could he have waited till maybe Boxing Day to tell him and just give him a couple days notice? Oh, geez. The Rocket now with a 19-10 1-1 record. They have 40 points, putting them back in second place in the North Division. They had actually dropped to fourth in the North going into last night's game. So that win helped push them back up to second. They are sixth overall in the AHL, and they will meet Abbotsford again on Saturday night at Place Belle. Trois-Rivières Lions, the ECHL affiliate of the Montreal Canadiens, also continue their winning ways. They beat Maine just a couple of days before New Year's quite handily. Lost to Maine in overtime on New Year's Eve, and then absolutely trounced Adirondack 7-2 on Friday night. So 8 wins in the last 10 games. They're on a bit of a streak.
19-4-4 is their record overall this season for 42 points. That's good enough for fifth in the ECHL.
We mentioned that those quotes from Cayden Primeau were courtesy of our very own Chris G, our reporter on the ground in Place Belle in Laval. And if you would like to read his weekly notepad articles on everything happening with the Laval Rocket and everything happening with the Trois-Rivières Lions, be sure you're following at Rocket Sports on X, Facebook, and Instagram. Rick publishes those notepad articles from Chris weekly. You can get the links, whether they're on Hockey Buzz or our Substack. You can get those right from our Rocket Sports social media timelines. We mentioned that Michael Pezzetta drew into a game this week, finally. It's been a long time. I think it was the end of October was the last time he played.
28 straight games that he was a healthy scratch. Incredible.
It's that had to have been. I mean, he dealt with that to a degree last year as well and kept a pretty positive outlook. But to not play for that amount of time this early in the season had to have been a struggle. But he did return to the lineup due to Patrick Laine being out with flu. Playing against the Chicago Blackhawks. Wasn't on the ice much.
Sub 6 minutes,
Yeah.
5 minutes and a bit, but pretty productive in that time. 3 shots on goal, which surprised me in just 7 shifts, and 3 hits, which you might expect from Michael Pezzetta, but got his money worth for sure in 5 minutes and 49 seconds of ice time.
Absolutely. And after the game, even though they didn't come out with the win, Pezzetta, I think, just feeling overall positive and probably relieved to finally have gotten into a game and expressed gratitude towards his teammates.
Yeah, I mean, it was just nice to be back with the guys. Like everyone's been so awesome, and I was just so excited to play today. I mean, unfortunately, we got the loss, which is a bummer, but it was just nice to be back.
Nice to be back. He's been included. He's been practicing. He's been going to the hospital visits and the parties. We know he was in the car when Justin Barron got the news about being traded.
That's right.
So he's been there. But again, being in the lineup is a whole different thing.
And he did admit that it's not been easy, and it's taken a real kind of team effort to keep him physically ready and mentally ready.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, that was probably the hardest stretch of my career, just mentally staying with it. But like I said, the guys have been really good with me, all the trainers, all the staff, making sure that I was ready, that I could go out there today. And after not playing for a while, felt good at least, and proud of myself, and I'm proud of everybody for how they took care of me.
Well, he should be proud of himself because he stayed ready and delivered when he was called on.
Finally, I just want to quick touch on an NHL league-wide story before we take our first break here and get set for our big topic coming up in segment 2. And that's about the Winter Classic, which we just mentioned a couple of minutes ago, took place in Chicago on Wrigley Field between the St. Louis Blues and Chicago Blackhawks. I've been bemoaning the fact ever since this was announced that they were holding it for the very first time ever on New Year's Eve and not on its traditional New Year's Day. I didn't understand that, given that there were a ton of other NHL games happening on New Year's Eve. The World Juniors was happening on New Year's Eve, whereas on New Year's Day, there is no other hockey. It's the only thing hockey-wise for people to watch. And it's New Year's Eve. People are getting ready to go out and things of that nature. So I found it a little befuddling as to why the schedule changed. But be that as it may, the Blues and the Blackhawks met up. Looked like a very cold event. But the Blues won it and won it handily, 6-2.
Yeah, rather easily. As we've mentioned before, the Blackhawks, the worst team in the National Hockey League presently, and so I guess that didn't help the ratings. Although Chicago, big market for the league, but yeah, it was turned out to be the worst ratings in the 17-year history of the Winter Classic. Just 920,000 viewers on TNT. That's down 16% from last year. And if you look back to 2019, that's the last time that the Blackhawks were part of the Winter Classic. It's and the rating points. I'm not going to explain that, but it's a 2.5 rating. This year, the last time they were there in 2019 was a 5.8, so more than double the rating for the Winter Classic. I think a failure all around and something they'll have to re-examine once again.
Reportedly, the reason that they decided to try to make the change is because they didn't want to go up against the 3 collegiate bowl games that were taking place on New Year's Day, because last year's Winter Classic was their lowest viewership to date at 1.1 million. And so they thought that maybe the bowl games were getting in the way. So as I just said a couple of minutes ago, if you're worried about other sporting events getting in the way, well, you have to read the room as to what hockey fans are going to be wanting to do and watch on New Year's Eve, and the Winter Classic is just going to get lost in the mix. And it's sad to see that that's what happened. Less than a million viewers for a really big event game like that is, I agree with you, Rick. Failure would be the right word, and I think heads are going to roll about that. They have to move it back to New Year's Day, and they have to I think, start rethinking. I don't know. They might have to reinvent the Winter Classic a little bit.
Well, let me ask 2 questions quietly.
Oh boy.
Is the novelty wearing off of outdoor games?
Yeah.
Or here's another question. Hey, what about a Canadian team? Like
That would help.
like really?
That would
What
help.
about a Canadian team?
That would help.
Anyway.
We know that Florida's apparently getting one.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the issue too, is that, as you say, it has the novelty worn off. Well, it used to just be the Winter Classic. Then the Heritage Classic started to get thrown in there as well. And then you started to have more and more of these things kind of trickle in. And yeah, I think as more leagues and organizations and teams and so forth put them on, they do get a little less special. We'll see. We'll see what they do. All right, we are going to take our first break here on the Canadiens Connection podcast. We have a brand new offer and incentive for you from DraftKings, but not from DraftKings Sportsbook. This is from DraftKings' newest product. It's a completely different app called DraftKings Pick 6. Great new incentive, really fun new way to get in on the action through DraftKings. So you're going to check that out, and then don't go away, because when we come back, segment 2 is upon us, and we are going to go over the 10 upcoming things in 2025 that Montreal Canadiens fans can expect to see happen and can look forward to. We like a bit of good news and good things and optimism to start the new year. So you're not going to want to miss that. Stay with us. You're listening to the Canadiens Connection podcast on Rocket Sports Radio.
Have you played Pick 6 from DraftKings yet? What are you waiting for? You better get on it. The playoffs are here and time is running out. As the official daily fantasy sports partner of the NFL, DraftKings does fantasy sports like no one else. Play for better payouts on Pick 6. It's super easy to get started. You select 2 or more players, choose if they'll have more or less of a stat, like touchdowns, yardage, sacks, that kind of thing. Pick 6 is available in most states, including Missouri, California, Texas, Georgia, and more. And DraftKings is making it even sweeter for first-timers. New Pick 6 customers play $5 and get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Win more cash on Pick 6. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to play $5, get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Only on DraftKings Pick 6. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 30 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
And welcome back to the Canadiens Connection podcast on Rocket Sports Radio. Once again, I am Amy Johnson. You can find me over on X at Flyers Rule. Feel free to give me a follow over there if you'd like. And with me in the studio is our president and founder of Rocket Sports, Rick Stevens. You're going to want to be sure to follow him on X as well. That handle is at Rocket Sports. Also, while you're there, follow at Habs Connection, and not only on X, but also on Facebook and Instagram. And don't forget, if you ever miss an episode, just head over to our archive at canadiensconnection.fm. You can catch up on anything that you might have missed. And hey, last but not least, first thing you should be doing in this new year, if you haven't done so already, is hit subscribe, either on your favorite podcast player or on our YouTube channel, whichever you prefer.
If you have an extra minute, download that DraftKings app as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I might have to do that. It's quick and easy.
Yeah.
It's, like, let's say, as I said there in the spot, let's say you pick Justin Jefferson, and you have to basically say, is he going to have more or less than whatever the given statistic is? Like, is he going to have more or less than 3 touchdowns on Sunday night? And that's all it is. That's how you play it.
Mike Raschel and I got the Detroit Minnesota game thing. Yeah.
That was a softball lob right there.
I'm staying out of it because I'm very excited for this game.
All right. Crystal ball. What is on the horizon for the Canadiens in 2025? Well, as we just talked about, the Canadiens ended the 2024 calendar year on a pretty positive note with those 3-game road winning streak. It really seemed to bring the team closer together. Their attitudes seem to be uplifted, obviously enjoying some wins, and gets them a little closer to that stated goal of our favorite phrase of the year. Thank you, Jeff Molson, of in the mix by the time March and April roll around. So that leads us, it's the first podcast of the brand new year. It's a time for people to set resolutions, time to set goals, set expectations. And so we are here to say, what can Habs fans expect to see from the organization in the calendar year 2025? Things to look forward to. And so that's going to be not only the end of this season, but also the off season and the first half of the next season. And we've got 10 items that we are going to bring to you. We're not going to waste a bit of time because number one is probably one of the most exciting things for Habs fans who are absolutely just wringing their hands in anticipation for the arrival of Ivan Demidov this year.
Yeah, it's not even close. This is the most important thing that will happen in 2025. It's the most important thing that's happened to the Canadiens organization in a very long time. Ivan Demidov will be the most important prospect, and his transition to the NHL will go a long way to determine how successful the rebuild is. He is just he has. He's going to be let's not say that. The impact that Lane Hutson has had in his ability to bring fans out of their seats, we expect that Ivan Demidov will have the same and maybe even more of an impact. Maybe not all at once, maybe not immediately, but his arrival to North America sometime in 2025 is going to hopefully change this organization dramatically for the better.
It is an exciting, anticipatory moment that I know everyone is just really just gnashing their teeth. Can't wait to see what he's going to do when he gets here. Admittedly, you're going to have to wait a little while. It's only the beginning of January. It's going to be a bit of a wait. I think the wait will be worth it in the end. But before that, number two, Habs fans can look forward to the return of David Reinbacher, which could potentially happen before the end of this season.
Yeah. The Montreal Canadiens, since the medical staff was revamped, have been very good at predicting when players will return to the lineup. David Reinbacher is scheduled to be ready to go before the end of this season. Good chance that he'll join the Laval Rocket. And if the Laval Rocket are able to go on a long playoff run, David Reinbacher could be part of that, and he could get some very valuable experience. It's been difficult for him to be in the press box the entire season as he rehabs from his injury. A lost season for his development, and he is also an important part of this rebuild. You see, there's a stopgap move was made this season to deal with the fact that he's not around, and he could shore up that the right defense for the start of next season. For the Montreal Canadiens.
Now, number three is one that, while I'm excited for Ivan Demidov, I am almost as excited for different reasons for number three. And that is the potential that's sitting kind of at the feet of the Canadiens with what they might have gotten for themselves in Jakub Fowler in the crease. I'm already thrilled that Jakub Dobes is starting to progress and has already, made his way up to the NHL. We'll see how much experience he's going to get there. The next thing I think they need is Jakub Fowler, and I'm very excited for the potential of him and his arrival and when he's going to make the jump from BC, from Boston College into the pro ranks.
Jakub Fowler is 20 years old, and so his impact directly on the Montreal Canadiens, we're talking about potential here. He had a phenomenal freshman season for Boston College in the NCAA. He's followed it up with an exceptional sophomore season, has a record of 11-2-1, 173 goals against, 933 save percentage, 4 shutouts this season. He's only gotten better. Now, will he arrive and be able to help the Laval Rocket next season? Is his collegiate career over after this season? Maybe some question marks there, but this is another really, really important player for the Montreal Canadiens, and keep an eye on him because 2025 is going to, I think, give you good feelings about the future of goaltending in Montreal.
Which, let's face it, is way overdue for good feelings about the goaltending in Montreal. Number 4 of what Habs fans can expect to see within the organization in this calendar year. I think everyone is going to be very much looking forward to the sophomore year of 2 players. Lane Hutson might be the obvious one. Emil Heineman might be the under-the-radar one, but both of them could be teeing up to have a really, really dynamic second full year in Emil Heineman's case, because he's played a little bit before, but a full second year 2 for Hutson and Heineman could be a big deal.
Do we expect a sophomore slump for Lane Hutson? I sure don't. He just likes hockey too much. He likes being part of the Montreal Canadiens. He likes playing. He's been phenomenal in his impact. We talked before. Emil Heineman, very much under the radar, but his contribution has been really significant in very, very limited amounts of ice time. To have 10 goals, 7 assists, 17 points in 37 games this season, and now getting and has been getting some exposure to the second power play, but getting all of that for the most part on the fourth line has been wonderful. And yes, having those 2 players with a full year of experience each, and having them know what to expect and perform better, and maybe Heineman moving up the lineup a little bit. Who knows what they can each do in 2025.
Number 5, bringing us to the midway point of the 10 things that Habs fans can anticipate and look forward to from the Canadiens in this coming calendar year, is the competition at training camp this past September was some of the most exciting and intense as we've seen it in a handful of years, and I thought that was a really good thing for the organization. I expect it to be even more intense this coming fall, because there are going to be quite a number of candidates eligible for promotion to grab an NHL roster job. And I think the competition for that, to use Marty's favorite phrase, to grab one of those chairs, is going to be really, really fun for fans to watch. Guys like Owen Beck, Logan Mailloux, Oliver Kapanen, don't forget about him. Philip Méchar's back from his injury, and he's starting to get his legs again. But Rick, there's even more than that.
Yeah. When you think about, Joshua Waugh was almost a lock to make the Canadiens roster this year and didn't have a very good camp. So is he going to be out to prove that next year? Understand that he has to work a little harder, understand he has to perform a little bit better. Is he going to be looking to prove something in camp? Jared Davidson has been terrific, at times leading the Laval Rocket in scoring. Is he going to want to grab a place? Adam Engstrom's been very good. Is he going to be under consideration for promotion? You mentioned Owen Beck, and he's been everything to the Laval Rocket this season, and in fact, the coaching staff is trying him with different line mates to see if he can elevate their game too. Logan Mailloux may be another player who might have expected to be part of the mix and was up for a couple of games. Oliver Kapanen was up for 12 games with the Canadiens and maybe could have hung his head when sent to the SHL, but hasn't done that. He's been almost a point a game player for Timrah this season. So there's lots of candidates for possible promotion in the fall.
Absolutely. So as we've said, we are looking into the crystal ball to see what is on the horizon for the Canadiens in 2025, giving you 10 things for Habs fans to be expecting and looking forward to. We're halfway through this list. We've had the arrival of Ivan Demidov, the return of David Reinbacher, the potential of Jacob Fowler, year 2 of Lane Hutson and Emil Heineman, and as we just talked about, the potential promotion of a lot of really top prospects, maybe making a jump to the NHL. That brings us to number 6, which is this year's trade deadline. This is one that is one of those things that's going to be a quick reward in knowing what you're going to get with the trade deadline this year, because it is right around the corner. There are expiring contracts on the table. Are any of them going to be moved? There are older players who maybe need to make room, way to make room for some of those younger prospects to move in, Rick. And I think, well, I know every year we hope that there's going to be a splash at the trade deadline, and we've been a little disappointed about it the last couple of years. Maybe this year is the year that we see some moves happening.
You know the expiring contracts. We've talked about it a lot. Dvorak, Armia, Evans, Pezzetta, and David Savard. There's 3 players there that are the core of the Canadiens' penalty kill in Savard, Armia, and Evans. Evans and Armia have been terrific. We talked about the fourth line and how good it's been. Is Kent Hughes going to want to give up any of those players prior to the trade deadline? Can he afford to? Can he afford to keep those players and not get anything in return for them when he's looking to use assets to maybe land some top talent? So trade deadline is going to be something that in 2025 that all fans are going to closely monitor, especially where it falls after the Four Nations Cup.
Absolutely. I don't know that at the beginning of the year, anyone expected necessarily for this summer's 2025 NHL draft to be a big target moment again for the Montreal Canadiens. But given the way the season has shaped up so far, they've currently got 2 first-round picks, and we will see if are they going to end up with a top 5 pick again, top 10 pick? At the very least, there could be opportunities for the addition of another class of really top tier talent coming into the organization after this summer.
Not only selecting picks at the 2025 draft, as you said, 2 first-round picks, a couple of second, a couple of third, a couple of fourth, but Kent Hughes has been active on the trade market in the past. At the drafts, and is he going to be able to land the player that he needs in terms of very talented, very skilled, or via the draft, or is he going to have to put together packages to to trade for those players that will fill a need. But the draft is going to be very important in 2025.
Coming in at number 8, right after the draft, free agency opens, and spend some money, Kent. Cap space going up a little bit this year. Will we see Kent Hughes and Jeff Gordon go after some names in free agency that could really help the organization take another big step forward in their rebuild?
NHL salary cap going to be at $92.4 million. We already talked about the contracts that are going to come off the books. Kent Hughes is going to have some money to spend, and there are some attractive free agents that will be available. In the past, they've wanted the young core to grow together, but they're going to be able to add to that group and add to the talent level through free agency, and this is going to be Kent's biggest free agency possible splash since he becoming the general manager of the Montreal Canadiens.
Coming in at number 9, I think this might be an understated number 9, but I think it's a very important one, and that's going to be particularly one of those expiring contracts is David Savard, and whether it's at the trade deadline or whether it's just not getting re-signed over the summer, if David Savard plays his last year with the Canadiens this year, we should see Cayden Primeau assume a much bigger role within the organization and in the defensive core next year. And I think that is going to be a huge key for the Canadiens in taking that next big step forward in the rebuild.
Cayden Primeau is just 22 years old in a couple of weeks. He'll have his 23rd birthday. I think we're seeing this year that his role is evolving, seeing him mature and taking on a greater role both on and off the ice in terms of leadership, in terms of how important he is. Lane Hutson, obviously, the most dynamic player. But maybe the most important defenseman, all-around defenseman, is becoming Cayden Primeau, and you see how well he plays, especially as he's been moved to his natural side. Mm-hmm. We harped on it for a long time, the better part of the calendar year 2024, moving him back to his natural side. That's happened finally, and he is playing exceptionally well. And I think that that's going to be, it's under the radar now. That's going to be more recognized in the latter half of 2025.
I think so. All right. Well, that brings us, last but certainly not least, to number 10. And number 10 is kind of a cumulative item in the looking in the crystal ball and what's on the horizon for the Canadiens this coming season. And really, it's a compound item of what are going to be the answers to a number of serious questions. The question marks surrounding Patrik Laine, and you know, he has started things off well now that he's back from injury. Can he continue that? Kirby Dach. Has Kirby Dach turned a corner in the last week? Is that going to continue? Alex Newhook, has he started to turn a corner this past week? What about Juraj Slafkovsky? Those 4 forwards have big question marks hovering over their heads for the remainder of this season and going into next season that Habs fans can expect to start to get a more solid answer to as the year progresses.
Patrik Laine has 8 goals in 13 games, 18 goals, 2 assists, 10 points in 13 games. As we know, all 8 goals on the power play. Patrik Laine hasn't really been a factor 5-on-5. Can he, he didn't play for a long time. As he plays and gets more comfortable with the line mates and the Canadian system, can he be an impact player 5-on-5? The Canadiens will need him to be. Kirby Dach, is Kirby Dach a center? Can he be the Canadiens' second line center? Can he, it took Cole Caulfield a year after his surgery to really get back to being Cole Caulfield. Can Kirby Dach perhaps after a full season next season, get to be back to Kirby Dach? Alex Newhook, who is Alex Newhook? And how does he fit into the lineup once the Canadiens start adding, these players who are promoted or integrating some new players perhaps nabbed in free agency. And Juraj Slafkovsky, tough start to his season. It was a tough start to his season last year, but really turned things around with the top line. He's been better, not like he was last year. And can he be that player? That can he be the valuable first round pick that he's expected to be for the Canadiens? So yeah, lots of question marks, and want fans to look in their crystal balls to see how all of these 10 points are going to turn out for the rest of 2025.
But when you put all of that together, wow. Like, it's a new year, folks. 2025 is here, and there are some really positive and exciting things for everyone to look forward to when it comes to the Montreal Canadiens organization. There's so much potential there. They just have to realize it. They just have to take a hold of their opportunities. They have to make the most of their opportunities. They have to maximize every situation. But that list of 10, I think there's a lot to look forward to. So for the Canadiens Connection question of the week this week, we want to know, what are you most excited to see from the Canadiens in 2025? Maybe it's one of the 10 things that we just mentioned, but maybe you have a completely different target in your mind of what you are most looking forward to seeing from this Canadiens organization this calendar year. We want to hear from you. As always, we will take the best responses, read them on next week's show. So reach out via the Rocket Sports text line. That's 5853-ROCKET. Drop us a comment in the comment section on YouTube. That's a great way to send in a response. Also, just hit the reply button and send us a message on, either a message or just a regular reply on X, Twitter, if you want to call it that, Facebook or Instagram. Send us an email if you'd like. We want to hear from you. What are you most excited to see from the Montreal Canadiens in 2025? With that, we are going to take our last break here on the Canadiens Connection podcast. And coming up next, we're going to read a bunch of your responses from last week's Canadiens Connection question of the week, because a lot of you had a lot to say. You're not going to want to miss it. Maybe you're going to hear your answer read. So stay with us. You are listening to the Canadiens Connection podcast on Rocket Sports Radio.
We all love settling in our favorite chair at home to watch a night of NHL action, but nothing beats getting to see your favorite team play live. And Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I'm looking right now in the Game Time app at the Montreal Canadiens' upcoming homestand, and I'm seeing ticket prices starting at $30. $30 to get into the Bell Center to see the Montreal Canadiens. There are tons of deals available. What I really like about the Game Time app for tickets is their all-in pricing. If you toggle the feature on the app for all-in pricing, it shows the complete total cost for the tickets up front so that you don't get any surprise fees at checkout. You also get seat views. You can select to see a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, so you know exactly what your view is going to look like. They have a lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And the Game Time app just makes it so simple. You can buy tickets in seconds with just 2 taps in the app. Last minute deals on tickets right up to the start of the event, even an hour after it starts. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code THPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create an account and redeem code THPN for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time.
And welcome back to episode 329 of the Canadiens Connection podcast on Rocket Sports Radio. Don't forget, follow us at Habs Connection on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Visit our website at canadiensconnection.fm. Text us at any time on our Rocket Sports text line. You can find us there at 5853-ROCKET. Subscribe. That's if you have one New Year's resolution, it's make sure you're subscribed to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. You can find that over at InsideTheCanadiens.com. Leave us comments, leave us some feedback, leave us a review if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Music or any other platform that allows you to leave a review. We greatly appreciate if you leave a review. And what's even better is you don't even have to, write a caption or anything. Just the simple act of hitting the share button and sharing each episode as you listen to it to your social media followers always helps us, and we always very much appreciate that. Don't forget, we want to hear from you on this week's Canadiens Connection question of the week. What are you most excited to see from the Montreal Canadiens in 2025? I think we're going to get some fun responses to that. I look forward to hearing what everyone has to say. Last week, however, we put out the question, if you were Kent Hughes, this is where the big topic last week was about the goaltending shakeup. How Montembeault maybe hasn't met every expectation or hasn't met many expectations. How Primeau was being placed on waivers, what that meant for him, Jakub Dobes being recalled to the NHL. So we said, if you were Kent Hughes, what would your next move be for the Canadiens' goaltending situation? Would you pursue a veteran goalie to stabilize their roster, or would you stick with developing the younger talent? And boy, you all had things to say. Mm-hmm. I'm going to start with She26. She's always got a very thoughtful response, and she actually goes through she reacts to the whole podcast in her comments, which is always very fun. She says, yes, finally, someone who agrees with me about Laine. He was completely out of line with what he said. This is going back to when they visited the Columbus Blue Jackets, and Columbus and their fans took exception to some things that Laine said in the pregame media availability. She said, I had commented about Laine's inappropriate behavior on another podcast and got annihilated. We're so sorry to hear that. We're so glad that you know that you have a safe place to voice your opinions here at Rocket Sports. She says, it was so bad that I had to delete my comment due to the never-ending rude notifications. Well, that's rude.
Yeah.
Oh, and that Marty St. Louis follow-up, I was not one bit surprised. I am more than a little confused and have been for some time as to why Heineman is not getting more ice time. He's more than proven what he's capable of. Hello, MSL? I actually feel bad for Primeau. History repeating itself again. Geez. MSL leaving him benched for so long before sending him down, and then top that off with Pez still sitting too, although she must be very excited that Pezzetta got into the lineup on Friday night. Mm-hmm. She says they are ruining players' careers or even a possible chance of having any type of career. I have yet to see or hear any player on the entire team that has had a confidence issue and be helped by Marty St. Louis. The presser, when St. Louis swore and walked off, I took another beating in the comment section. The press asked a valid question and St. Louis acted like an immature baby. What else is new? She finishes by saying, Kent Hughes needs to get a veteran goalie. But I do love Dobes and Fowler, though. The bigger questions for me anyway would be, would there be a good veteran goalie to be found? Or how long might it take for Dobes, who rocks, and Fowler, who also rocks, to be ready to play permanently in the NHL? Oof. Thanks for the loaded question, guys. Enjoyable podcast as usual. Thank you both so much. And enjoyable comment as usual. She26. Looks like you struggled with some of the questions, but always have a very good reply. And we thank you for always listening and commenting so thoughtfully.
Let me pick another one here. This one from Denise Pink, 8794. And Denise says, what's she talking about? Monty hasn't been fantastic this year. She's way off on that. Great show, though. Denise thinks that Sam Montembeault's been fantastic this year. Well, You're
welcome to think that.
Yeah, he's been this good. He is, if you like the goals saved above expected, you can find that many places involving hockey. You can find it on moneypuck.com. Sam's been about 20th, so there's around there in the league amongst goaltenders this season. If you look at goals saved above average, the Rob Volman, one of the pioneers in analytics, he's around 40th in the league in terms of goaltending. So no, he's not a top 5 goaltender, which I would say is fantastic. Even if you expand that to top 10, not there either. But Denise loves our show.
And we thank you, Denise. We will take your comment, even though you might disagree with my opinion. We're happy to have you as a listener. We're thankful for your comment, even if it's we always say, give us friendly debate. Tell us you disagree with us. Don't be rude about it. There was somebody else in the comments who got a little rude, and they got told by some other people, not by me. And that's fine. That's fine. But I'm gonna for the one that I'm gonna pick to read. I'm sorry, but I'm going with Frank Huber 9912 because apparently he is currently on a campaign to, I don't know, be the president of my fan club or something. I don't know. He says, just dropped in to say that Amy provided the only sane perspective on the Lina Columbus affair worth listening to. The wisdom, restraint, and maturity evident in her thoughts on the matter are sorely lacking in the usual tripe served up by the marauding podcast mafia. Honorable mention goes to Rick for his contributions on the topic, but ultimately, Amy...
Well, let me say thank you first before you brush past that for the honorable mention.
Honorable mention.
Thank you, Frank.
But ultimately, Amy is the first star of the game this week. Well done all around. Frank... Gold star to you, my friend. Thank you. And in all, I'm not just reading that because of the glowing comments and compliments from Frank. We appreciate. He's also a frequent commenter, and we always appreciate hearing from him. But particularly on that topic, the line that's not an easy topic to touch on because there's a lot at play with that whole situation. And so appreciate that you came here to Rocket Sports and Canadiens Connection and you found this. We always are happy when listeners say, oh, finally, I heard an opinion or a statement or a take on the Canadiens Connection podcast that I agree with and that no one else on all of the other podcasts is saying. That makes us feel good because we always talk about how we try to be very objective. It means that our opinions aren't always popular. We're not cheerleaders for the team. We try to take things unbiased, analytical approach, journalistic approach, and be objective, and just be honest and be true, not try to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. So appreciate your comment. Appreciate you listening.
I'm just going to wrap up the YouTube comments by picking one from Jim Hemsworth. And again, you're talking about us doing things a little bit differently, not being a fan-driven cheerleading podcast and not following the crowd necessarily. We try to be objective. We try to do things correctly. And one of the things we like to do is pronounce names correctly. So you've heard us say Patrick Laine a number of times. And Jim says, hey, it's pronounced Laine. You guys are killing me. Well, Jim, It's not. I mean, you hear it in many of the broadcasts. You hear it in many of the Montreal media reporters. But why don't you respond to Jim here, as you did online?
I was gonna. He left this comment on YouTube, and being the resident voice actor at Rocket Sports, who gets paid as a professional in my full-time career to pronounce things correctly, I take comments like this pretty seriously. So yes, under the All Habs moniker, I did reply to Jim's comment online, and I simply said, we take name pronunciation very seriously here at Rocket Sports and do our due diligence to ensure accuracy. In this instance, we prefer to use the proper Finnish pronunciation of Laina's name, which is Laina, instead of the more commonly used North American version, Laine. That should clear up your confusion.
And he replied, fair.
Fair.
Mm-hmm. The biggest example, I think, of this was former Canadiens prospect Jesse Ullinen. Yeah. And you interviewed him and said, how would you like your name pronounced? And he said, well, Ylonen.
Yelonen's fine.
That's how they pronounce it around. And you said, no, wait, no. How do you say your name?
That's right.
And he said, yes, Ullinen. And we're not going to pronounce it with the same
accent,
the same Finnish lilt,
right,
or Swedish or French, but we try to get as close as we can.
I repeated it back to him like 3 times, like Ullinen, like am I saying? Yes, it's Ullinen. Okay, great.
But you heard the Montreal media for years, including that guy from Sportsnet, say Jesse Ylonen. Ask the guy and just ask him. Anyway.
Oddly enough, I then put a video out on our YouTube channel after that titled, "You're pronouncing Jesse Ullinen's name incorrect, name wrong."
Yeah.
And within a week after that, suddenly the broadcasts started mysteriously pronouncing it correctly, which I thought was hilarious. It's not about being, this isn't I told you so and we're right in your, it's just, we're journalists. We're supposed to do the due diligence. And none of us would like it if someone pronounced our name incorrectly. So anyway, I digress.
So I'm not going to pronounce the last name of this writer who wrote us a long email to our email address, hello@rocketsportsmedia.com. I will call him Chris C., which is different from our own Chris G. Chris C. he'd always say, I'm in the other Hamilton, which is Hamilton, Ohio. We're not Hamilton, Ontario, but now he's moved. He's in New York. He's Clifton Park, New York. Anyways, hi, it's Chris C. It's been a while. Thank you, Rick, Amy, and the team for continuing to provide superb coverage and for making us think. That's all we ever want to do is give you something to think about. He said regarding Patrick speaking his mind, journalists are loath to interview certain players because all they offer is safe cliches. Patrick spoke his mind, which is consistent with Finnish culture. Finns value honesty and straightforwardness, expecting the same in others. They also prefer bluntness over eloquence. I not speaking directly to Chris here, but in general, this interpretation of Finnish culture, and I'm not going to take any kind of, I don't know any better than anybody else. I'm not Finnish, but I grew up in Thunder Bay. I had more Finnish friends than you could count. Thunder Bay, outside of Scandinavia, there's more Finns in Thunder Bay than anywhere else in the world. Certainly in North America. And this notion that Finns have this truth superpower and only can speak is a bit silly. The fact that people are saying that they lack tact or diplomacy, and that's why Patrick had to say what he did. Sorry, I can tell you that's not wrong. Now, Finns don't have a lot of time for BS. They as far as superpowers, they call it Sisu, having this inner strength, having perseverance, having determination. I can vouch for all of that. But the fact that you think that Finn has to be blunt and crass and all of that, I just point you to 3 guys that I had that I've spoken to or spoken to me. Teemu Selanne, and yes, as if we're pronouncing names correct, it's not Timu, it's Teemu Selanne, Teppo Numminen, ultimate gentleman, and Saku Koivu, incredible, gentle man, and had the pleasure of speaking to him. So anyway, that's my piece there. Chris C, goes on to say the Habs need stability on the right D side and better net minding. Kovacevic was a bad call. That is trading him. We talked about that last week. It was predicated on Barron stepping up, which didn't happen. Barron was a bad call twice. First in the Lehkonen trade, that is acquiring him, and then his selection over Kovacevic. I agree with that. Mm-hmm. Maybe 3 times, not originally sending him down at the beginning of the season. Hughes corrected his Barron assessment and shored up the right side in the process. That's bringing in Carrier, indicating he is capable of reassessment. I agree with that total. So a couple of a nice long email, a couple of comments from Chris C, and we really appreciate. And I really like in there that he says compliments our coverage, but the bit about making the listeners think.
Yeah, I liked it too. And we love that people get in touch with us with all different ways. That's why if you've been listening to us for a while, I'm sure sometimes you're like, yes, we know how to get in touch with you. Well, we have new listeners each and every week, and there are a lot of different ways for people to reach out to us. And we just always want to make sure that you know that you've got lots of options, and we want to hear from you. We really love how interactive the podcast is.
And loads of new listeners in 2024. Yeah. We were very grateful for that. We look forward to growing our listening audience in 2025 as well. So thank you. Thank you for everyone who's been with us for 7 years of the Canadiens Connection and those who have joined quite recently.
And we've got lots to look forward to this coming week. It's going to be a great week. It's going to be a very great week. It's one of my favorite weeks of the year. It is.
Why is that?
I don't know.
Happy birthday.
Oh, are you going to say? Oh,
no, that's as far as that goes.
Really?
No.
Let the record show. That is the only amount of happy birthday singing that Rick Stevens could muster for his co-host.
Yeah.
Okay.
For this coming week.
All right.
We'll get the Rocket Sports team together and.
There you go.
Patrick Williams. Yeah.
There we go. The Canadiens play 3 games between now and the next time we get together. Saturday night is the second part of their back-to-back on the road. Their last game of the road trip, they will be visiting the Colorado Avalanche on Saturday night at 7 o'clock. Then they play on Monday night. My birthday isn't until Tuesday, and I was pleasantly surprised that the Habs aren't playing on my birthday, which is odd because it's a Tuesday. So maybe they'll have to get me a birthday win on Monday night. Birthday Eve, we'll call it that. When the Vancouver Canucks come to Montreal and play the Canadiens at the Bell Center at 7:30 p.m., this is going to be probably one of those Amazon Prime Canada games since it's a Monday 7:30 start. And then finally, then the Canadiens not playing again until Friday. Yes, that's right. Back-to-back weeks of a Friday night game. They head out on the road again to visit the Washington Capitals on Friday night. That's a 7 p.m. puck drop as well. And then we will be back with you next Saturday, January 11th, for another great episode of the Canadiens Connection podcast. Happy New Year to all of you. Wishing you all a fabulous year ahead of good health, prosperity, and lots of fun. And we look forward to having you along with us every week and every step of the way. Thank you for listening to the Canadiens Connection podcast right here on Rocket Sports Radio.
Click subscribe so you never miss an episode of Canadiens Connection. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Rocket Sports.